Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, star maker for entrepreneurs who want to unlock their potential, command any stage, and make blockbuster profits. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a brand that makes you happy and profitable. Here we go.
Hi everyone, welcome to Thrive. This is episode number 4, How to Customize Your Success Using Human Design with Karen Parker. Karen Parker is an international speaker, expert, and best-selling author of the book Understanding Human Design, The New Science of Astrology. Discover who you really are. In this episode, Karen's going to share with us what human design is and how we can use it to create a life and business we love. She's going to tell us what the different archetypes are and how understanding our own unique archetype can help us leverage our strengths and mitigate our weaknesses. And finally, she's going to talk about how knowing your archetype can actually help you make more money in your business and understand what kinds of marketing strategies to use. It's amazing stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, entrepreneur who helps other entrepreneurs become stars in their industry. And welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a brand that makes you happy and profitable. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are in for high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. And I couldn't be more thrilled than to have my special guest here today, Karen Parker. Karen Curry Parker is an international speaker and #1 best-selling author of Understanding Human Design, The New Science of Astrology. Discover who you really are. Karen heads her own personal development firm where she uses human design as the foundation for discovering a person's unique gifts and best strategies to help them create the healthiest, wealthiest, and most fulfilling life. Karen says human design is the operating manual for our lives. She's personally trained thousands of people to use human design, helping them identify, resolve, and overcome habits and conditioning, keeping them stuck. Using her experience as a nurse, energy healer, and high-performance life coach, Karen develops programs focused on business, abundance, and relationships, taking this system deeper and more specific to areas of life needing focused attention. Karen launched her most recent program, Healing by Human Design, to help people get to the heart of their pain, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. It helps you understand you don't have to suffer anymore. And today we'll be talking to Karen about her incredible career, lessons she's learned from human design, which you can apply to your own life, and her insights about humanity's future. So welcome, Karen. I am so excited to have you here. I know when I first met you, I was completely ignorant and a newbie I'd never heard of human design before. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who also have not heard of human design. So can you give us just an overview? I'm sure you have more than an overview to give us about what human design is and why we need to know about it.
Well, human design is a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, Kabbalah, and quantum physics. It works just like traditional astrology in that we take your birth data, we plug it into a computer program, thank God, because we used to hand you charts, and basically it spits out a chart. Then the chart's a really unusual looking thing. If I have one on my desk. I don't. I do. Here, it looks kind of like that. I don't know if you can see that. It's a big triangle with lots of lines and geometry on it. This chart is really different than anything else that's out there because it's not like the Enneagram. It's not like Myers-Briggs. It's not like any of these personality assessment systems in that it's not going to tell you stuff like here's your destiny, here's your life purpose. What it does basically is it gives you a map and it shows you how you're hardwired. And when you understand that hardwiring, it really helps you understand how do you use energy in your life. Everybody uses energy differently. How do you use your energy for work? How do you use your energy correctly so that you're making good decisions? It shows you where you receive energy from other people. For example, half of us are taking emotional energy in from other people. Half of us don't have our own inherent emotional pulse. We're empathic and we're experiencing other people's emotional energies. It shows you your best strategies for relationships. It shows you your best strategies for making money. And it's really, you know, I have to call it the instruction manual for how you work or for your life. It's the how you operate versus what are you here to do or who are you. Certainly it's also going to tell you who you are, but that how piece is really crucial because I think a lot of us get here and we forget, okay, how do I work? How do I function? How do I make a good decision? What's right for me? And we're all kind of entrained to do things in a one-size-fits-all manner. And what we see with human design is that there is no formula for everybody. There is your formula for creating money, for creating relationships, for creating health and wellness, for having an exercise routine, for eating, for being successful, for working. There is your formula, and it's the only formula that's going to work for you. And when you understand how you operate, then you know how to figure out what's that formula. That
Wow. So once you have that key, that map, then you can apply it to all these different areas of your life. Okay. So the way that I understand it, it's not a future predictor. You're not looking into the future. It's really how.
People want me to do that all the time, but I can't do that with the chart.
Wow.
They want to know my soulmate and what's going to happen next week. I have no
So
idea.
if someone said, okay, who is my soulmate going to be? What's going to happen next week? You can't predict that, but what you could say is if you want to find your perfect soulmate, the way that you would go about doing that the most successfully is by doing it this way. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll look at strategies to get you ready for your soulmate. We'll give you strategies to help you make the most out of your life and draw to yourself the experiences you want. And we'll show you how to know when those things show up.
So if you were going to use this in business, how can you give me an example of how it would work for someone to use that in their business and some of the results that you've seen in people, in your clients when they have used it, and also maybe some examples of when it hasn't, people haven't followed it, or they're bucking against their own natural, what would you say, type? Is that how you would say it? Okay.
Yeah, their energy, and when they're not leveraging their energy correctly is how I would put it. First of all, I would say that probably the vast majority of people in business are not using this correctly. And I think when we look at the real reason why small businesses fail or startups fail, we always say, oh, it's because of lack of capital, or they're not reading the market correctly, or I don't think that's the reason at all. I think most people who are struggling in business are struggling in business because they're not leveraging themselves correctly. They're not marketing in a way that's in alignment with their energy. They're not structuring their business in a way that keeps them sustainable energetically and keeps them attached to the joy that business is supposed to be. Because business is actually, if you look at the chart as an archetype of what it means to be human, we're actually designed to have fun work.
Yeah, well, no, I think all of us. I think all of us. And you, yeah. I mean, right before we started, we were just talking about that, about really finding the joy in your business. And when, you know, I know I've gotten off track at different times in my business. I've gotten off track or followed advice that's put me sort of at odds with what my natural abilities are. And I know that just shuts you down. And when you are happy and you're in your zone, you have more energy, you're more creative, you have more ideas, you make better connections, all those things.
Well, and you follow through on the stuff you know you need to do to grow the business. You don't procrastinate. You're not putting off the stuff that you know you need to do because you want the business to grow. But certainly I would say, you know, when we look at human design, there are 5 different energy types. That's kind of the basic foundation of the human design system. And each type has a different way of working. And when we look at, actually, we'll have to do the math again. We look at about 30% of the population. 30% of us are not designed to work in that traditional Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 grind kind of way. There are, 30% of the people in the world. And by the way, I think they're more heavily weighted in the service professions, which is why I think a lot of people in the service professions struggle so much with working and making successes with their businesses because they're not actually designed to see clients, 4 or 5 clients a day, 5 days a week, and then do the marketing and all the other stuff because they just literally don't have the energy to sustain it then that way. So somebody who in human design, the 5 types are called manifestors, projectors, reflectors, manifesting generators, and generators. The manifestors, which are about 9% of the population, projectors, who are about 20% of the population, and reflectors, who are about 1% of the population, those 3 energy types, when they're building a business, they've got to look at the fact that they need breaks. They need to work in a way that supports the natural rhythms and cycles of their energy And they do really well in structuring businesses where perhaps they can transmit and leverage their knowledge. Like, let's say if they're in the service-based profession, meaning they might want to create a series of digital products where people buy their products rather than having one-on-one, say, coaching sessions or private sessions or massage therapy or those kinds of more labor-intensive, energy-intensive connections with their clients. They can do it, but they can't do it as consistently and for as long and for as much as the other two types, the generators and the manifesting generator types. So just understanding that one basic fact, then that takes off a whole, hours and hours of other bits of data. Just knowing your energy type lets you look at your business and go, okay, how can I structure this business so that I stay sustainable in it? How do I set it up so that I'm not running it all the time and I'm not, I have somewhat of a passive stream involved as part of my business? How do I set it up so that I can market it correctly? For a lot of these energy types, like the projector type, for example, they can't market in the same way that, say, a manifestor or a manifesting generator or a generator type can. They have to be recognized and invited to be heard. And so if you're a projector energy type and you're out in the world and you've got your website with your big picture on it and you're branding yourself with your picture and your image and your first thing on your webpage is, here's what I can do for you and here's my bio. And if that's what you're doing as your marketing style, that's a death knell for someone with projector energy, because they can't push who they are out from a marketing perspective. They really have to be very concise and inviting with their marketing style and really invite people into working on themselves and healing themselves and making sure their marketing message is more of a love-based message that's about the client and not about themselves.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you clarify that a little bit more? So say I was a projector and I wanted to have successful marketing, but it's not the kind of push. What would be, would it be not putting your big picture on there and not talking about your services? What would it look, can you be a little more specific about what that would look like?
I would think absolutely. Let's take your business. Let's pretend you were a projector, which you're not, but let's pretend you were, okay? And we open up your webpage and there's beautiful Heather on the cover, and Heather's saying, I can make you a star, right? And if you're a projector, even if you're like the best star maker on the planet, because energetically you can't push that way, people are going to look at your website and go, no, it's not the right person for me. As a projector, what you would do is you might literally like craft an image or a graphic on your website that looks like an invitation. And you might, rather than putting your face on it, you can put your face on it, but small at the bottom, you might say, an invitation for you to step into your stardom. And so your marketing is more a message to your client saying, this is what you're going to get, client, and I can help you, but it's not all about me and my bio and what I can do for you. It's about you having this invitation of walking to this place of service.
Yes. So I have another question around that. Then if you were a projector or any type, to me, I'm guessing that it would mean that it would also help you understand who your ideal client is. Is that true? No? Okay.
Not necessarily. That part's not going to be as influenced. It's really going to be more how you market, because people can.
But I was saying, like, if I was a projector and I had, and I'm not, obviously this is new to me, so I'm learning, but say my energy was more, is it more inner, more inviting? It's not as outer as one of the other.
It can be outer, but it can't be outer until somebody recognizes you, because a projector is here to manage and guide and direct others. And if you think about it, think about this. If somebody manages and guides you without you asking them first, how does that feel? Usually we're like, who the heck are you? Shut up, right? So projectors naturally have this guiding energy, and they are here to manage the people who recognize that guiding energy in them and draw it out of them. So they can serve anybody as long as it's the people who recognize their preciousness and their wisdom, and they can't get recognized until somebody asks.
Well, so I think I'm definitely not one of those people, because I'm not going to wait for anybody. But no, I thought it was curious because I didn't know if it had to match the energy. If.
No, not at all. In fact, interestingly enough, projectors are here to manage the manifestors, the generators, and the manifesting generators. So they can pretty much, work with just about
okay.
anybody.
So we have the projectors who need invitation for their brilliance to be shared. Would that be okay? And then
Right.
what were the? Can you say a little bit more about the other ones as well?
So the generator types, and that's 70% of the population, that's generators and manifesting generators. They are here to engage with the world through response, which basically means they do really well with questioning, and they do really well. They actually do really well with one-on-one services. They usually like it. They usually want to do it. They have the capacity to do a lot of it. When it comes to marketing, they have to be asking their potential client yes or no questions. And because most of us are generators and manifesting generators, if you look at marketing like sales copy and how you're trained to do sales copy, a lot of sales copy and marketing is already kind of naturally generator based. So if you look at, let's say if you write a sales letter, you have your pre-header and then you have your headline. Usually your pre-header is a yes or no question, right? Are you struggling with your relationships? Does your marketing need help? Are you sick of begging and yelling and screaming at your kids? We always have these yes or no pre-header questions. Those are perfect generator style marketing techniques. And those of you who are generators, you tend to respond to that. You get asked a question, and you're like, oh, I do. I struggle with this all the time. And then you're immediately drawn into the copy because the question is correct. And if you're a generator type and you use those questions, that's a really effective way for you to market. A projector type, the ones that we just talked about, they can't do that. That doesn't work for them to ask those kinds of questions. It won't actually generate clients that way for them. So the manifesting generators and the generators really tend to do well with that style of marketing. Manifestor types, that's about 9% of the population. They actually have what's called an initiating energy. They can actually get people to be initiated through their actions. So for them, when they do their marketing, they have to use language that informs. So a manifestor is actually the kind who can really put their picture up there. And then they can say things like, I'm going to change your world. Let me tell you how. So they can do that kind of bold marketing that none of the other types can do at all. And a lot of us, when you see somebody marketing this way who is not a manifestor, we find it almost offensive.
So if someone is a natural offender, if someone's natural, if someone is a natural manifestor, that no, that kind of flew out of my mind what I was going to say, but people respond to that then? They do like that?
They will. That'll feel actually comfortable to them because they'll know what to expect from the energy blast that they get from the manifestor when they work with them.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have generators, manifestors, projectors, and then there were two more, yes?
Manifesting generators also go under the generator category. And then the last type is the reflector. And reflectors are really unusual because a reflector is, I always call the reflector the canary in the coal mine. They actually, if you look at a reflector chart, it's all white, which means that the reflector actually has a life purpose of absorbing the universe and then reflecting back out what's going on. So the reflector is kind of like the karmic mirror in the world. They're really demonstrating or reflecting back to us if we're healthy or not. So if you're a reflector and you're a happy reflector and you're skipping down the street and you're joyful where you live, it probably means that the community in which you live in is healthy. If you're a reflector, and Michael Jackson was a reflector, so I think it's a really interesting example to think about. If you're a reflector and you're struggling and you're hurting and you're tortured and maybe you're taking, obviously most reflectors are not taking drugs, but I think in Michael Jackson's case, you're trying to take medication to try to make everything work and hold everything together. When we look at the fact that he was a reflector in a community, the entertainment industry that I think probably, if he's reflecting that community, probably needs a little bit of help and support in terms of healing itself. You start to see that he had a very interesting, I think, wake-up role in terms of what's going on in that community. From a marketing perspective, it's a little tricky for the reflector because they are so open and sensitive, they need a lot of time for clarity because they really have to sort through all the energy that's impacting them all the time before they can really lock onto, of all this energy that I'm experiencing, which part of it is actually mine. And it takes time for them to really tease that out. So business and marketing gets a little tricky for the reflector. And to be quite frank with you, Heather, in my experience of coaching people over the last 15 years with human design, I've never actually worked with a reflector who's an entrepreneur. I'm not sure that's even a natural place for a reflector to be, because reflectors really need to be in an engaged community with a lot of people in it. So doing that closet, internet hermit thing that we do isn't necessarily good for a reflector.
So do you think the reflectors tend to be more sensitive?
Oh, they're very sensitive. Anybody can be sensitive. There are other elements in a chart that make people sensitive, but certainly reflectors are absolutely sensitive. I mean, a reflector, the reflector is going to sense when something's up on the planet. My oldest stepdaughter is a reflector, and she calls me all the time because she says, "What's going on in the planets? What's going on?" Because she can feel like when stuff's about to happen before it happens.
So let's go with that, the reflector and things that are going to happen with the planet. So this all comes from astrology, right?
It's actually astrology. It's the chakra system, Kabbalah, the Chinese I Ching,
all combined,
and quantum physics.
Oh, wow. So where did this come from? How do you know that it works, that it's not just, not just archetypes, that you, like you said, it's different from Enneagrams or any of the other archetype-based information that we have out there to sort of say, okay, it's not just as simple as saying, I'm a generator, so my marketing should be like this because I fit into this box of generator, and it's my personality, right? It's not just a personality. So where does this come from, and how do you know that it works? Not to put you on the spot.
The original story. The system was actually discovered in 1987 by a man named Ra Uru Hu, and he spent a good part of the rest of his life sharing and transmitting the information. So I actually studied with him in Sedona when I first learned the system. So it's a relatively new system, and I can't do the math anymore, I lost count, but it's less than 30 years old. How's that? I think the more important question is, how do you know that it works? And, I would say, I'll tell you my story and how I started using it. I've been a life coach since before the term life coach was actually a term. Before the article came out in Time Magazine with Dave Buck and Thomas Leonard in the 90s. When I first started working as a life coach, I worked with the Myers-Briggs program, and I used it as a primary assessment tool in my coaching practice with all of my clients. And I was secretly running human design charts on the side because I am a nurse by training, and I do have sort of a scientific background. And if you looked at my human design chart, you would see that I'm a really logical person. I like to know that, and I'm also deeply responsible. So I like to know that patterns are going to be consistent and they're going to work. So I was using human design and using the Myers-Briggs, and I kept looking at the two. And what I finally found out, after using both for a year, I really saw that the human design assessment was giving me a lot more information, a lot more depth, and was making me a lot more effective, frankly, at a coach, because one of the other things that it shows you, the Enneagram doesn't show you as effectively, is it actually shows you where you have vulnerabilities and where you potentially can get stuck. So when I look at a chart, especially when I was working in a chart and doing more active coaching than I do right now, because now I primarily teach, I could look at the chart and I could instantly know exactly where my client was stuck. When I used to run charts at expos, and when you're doing an expo, you want to get somebody's attention really quickly. And I got so good at looking at a chart and getting straight to the heart of what was going on with someone that, there would be a long line of people sobbing, and I started to bring boxes of tissues because I thought, I would just in 1 second strip off all the stuff and go, here's where you're at. And it's, it really is that clear. Now, do I have data? Can I say, okay, well, in my practice, 98% of the people have said that, I certainly will say that after using this for 15 years, after doing more than 7,000 readings, after running more than 25,000 charts, I have, in my experience, gotten one person has come back to me and said, I don't resonate with this. I don't relate to it. I don't get it. And when we actually looked at the chart, what we discovered is we had the wrong birthday on it.
That's amazing.
So, I've literally never had the experience of anybody saying, wow, this is just crazy. But I have definitely had the experience over and over and over again of people going, how did you know that about me? I did a reading for a woman a couple of weeks ago. She was 76 years old. And she said to me, I feel like I've been seen for the first time in my life. Someone
Wow.
has really seen me. And I think, that's really, people say that to me a lot. It's a very powerful way to get to the heart and the truth of who someone is, and to really see what are they here to do, and how can they get that how can they make
So
that work
does
in
it
their life?
help with that as well? You just said, what are they here to do? So it's not just how you best operate in the world. It's not just about your energy, but does it give you insight about purpose? Like,
Totally, totally. I mean, you can see that in there too. That's actually something people want to look at a lot, because I think a lot of people feel like, especially if they have a lot of experimentation in their chart, and some people are here to experiment. I think a lot of people really question, well, do I have a purpose? Am I here for a reason? And I'll say unequivocally, hands down, every single freaking one of the people on this planet are here for a reason. It might not necessarily be, the same cradle to grave job or career for the rest of your life, but you're here for a reason. And certainly you can definitely see
that's
that
really
in the chart.
interesting, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I know in my own life, that's something that I have had challenges around, because some people are very clear, like, I want to feed the hungry. I want to help 1 million people create online businesses. And if you don't, sometimes I think it feels like if you don't have that concrete frame around what your purpose is, it feels like you don't have a purpose. But I love the way you said it,
Right.
though. It's not your job. Your job is not your purpose.
And then I think the other piece of it is, we want to lock people into a purpose. And what I tell people is, there are some people who, when it comes to life purpose, they're here to order off the menu. There's a fixed selection, and there's like a fixed group of things that they're going to be happy doing. And there are some people who are here to go to the buffet of life purposes. And the way in which they can live out their purpose has a lot of potential different expressions. And there are some people who literally are not designed to do the same thing for the rest of their lives. In fact, if they do,
Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the show. There's still more great content to come, but I wanted to take just a minute to talk to you about a new course I've created called Close Any Room. You may have noticed that all of my guests know how to speak about their businesses in a clear and compelling way. But that's something a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and it's something you need to know how to do so you can convert your audience into more sales. And that's why I've created this course. It's a 6-week audio course to teach you how to craft a signature talk so that you can authentically give value and close more of your audience from the stage. In the class, you learn how to create a clear and compelling point of view, how to organize your content and give great value to your audience without giving away the farm, how to structure your talk so that it seamlessly closes your audience at the end without feeling salesy. And I also give you templates and instructions how to create marketing materials, a speaker sheet, and all kinds of sign-up sheets when you're giving your talks. And finally, what everybody's hot to know, I also give you tips and resources on how to find speaking gigs. It's an all-inclusive course so that you can start closing and selling more from the stage. And as my free gift to you for tuning into the podcast, I'm giving you my free webinar, also called Close Any Room, and you can listen to it at clearvoicebranding.com/close-any-room. And it will give you lots of tips and information to get you started on how to create that signature talk that sells. Okay, we're going to get back to the show now. There's still more great content to come. Thanks for joining me. And so we had a question in the chat of, if you look at the chart, can you see where people might get stuck in their business, not just in their life, but in their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest place where I see people get stuck is not using their energy correctly. I mean, there are people who are here. There are people who by design have to have consistent cycles of rest. There are people here who, I'll tell you the biggest place where people get stuck, actually, and you can appreciate this, Heather. The biggest place where people get stuck a lot of times is in their sense of value. And if they're, you can see in the chart if someone is vulnerable to having a low sense of value. And if that's in the chart, usually that's going to be the first thing I'm going to tackle, particularly if they've got issues with not generating enough revenue. I'm going to look at how much are you charging, and hands down, like 100% of the time, I'm having to coach people with that particular configuration in their chart to bring their fees up, because they're undervaluing their services so significantly.
So when you get your chart, when you get your human design chart, you see the vulnerability. It's not that you are victim to that vulnerability.
No. I mean, if you I always think about archetypes as being vibrations, and or being like a ribbon of potential. And anything that's in the chart is really thematic. It's not like, oh, you're doomed to be broke, or you're doomed to not, to not be able to do this, or you're going to always be stuck in this cell value piece. It's more like with that awareness, and this is the cool part about getting a human design reading, is it gives you this awareness. And once you have this awareness, for example, let's go back to the value piece, and you say, all right, I have a tendency to undervalue my services. Now, because you have that awareness, you can consciously engage in the question, is this an accurate reflection of my value every time you take a step in your business? Because you're going to know that that's a potential soft spot for you. Not a place where you have to be trapped and doomed. It's just a place where you have to have awareness so that you can consciously make sure you're living out the highest aspect.
That's great. I like that, because I think some people, when they think about astrology, and I know that this is more than astrology, but this is my life, this is my destiny, and what you're saying is this is just a roadmap to help you with your energy, and then you make the choices around that.
Right, and there are no doomed designs, and there's actually no suffering in the chart. And there's actually no being broke in the chart. We're actually designed to all have the money and the resources we need to fulfill our destiny. That's part of our natural electronic energy makeup. We're designed to be joyful. We're designed to love each other. We're designed to make a unique contribution to the world. We're designed to do forgiveness. We're designed to love ourselves. We're designed to be healthy. We're designed to take our direction from spirit. We're pretty cool.
Well, I think you're pretty cool. Oh, thank you. So does the chart tell you how you can be most joyful?
Totally. And actually, joy in the chart is logical, which is hysterical to me. Joy comes from repeated patterns, meaning joy comes from practice and repetition, making mistakes, improving the mistakes, practice and repetition, making mistakes, improving the mistakes. At a certain point, with enough repetition and mastery, you achieve joy because you get the pattern right. So when you think about, let's think about writing a book, okay? Let's say you write a book. When you write a book, the first time you finish the manuscript and you close the page, or you close the stack of papers, you don't have it perfect. You go to an editor, and the editor's going to edit it, and then you're probably going to have another set of eyes, somebody who's going to proofread it, and you're going to keep working at it and forming it until you get it perfect. And I say perfect loosely because I actually had my own publishing company for a lot of years, and there's always at least one typo, no matter what.
That makes me feel a lot better because I have a lot of typos.
So when you think about that experience of reading the book, don't you have so much more joy from the book when it's been, formed and corrected and reformed and kind of put into its right state, its right way of being? And when you do that, then it's a delicious and joyful read. If you're reading the book and it's like there's a typo on every page and this doesn't make sense and that chapter doesn't relate to this chapter and the main theme of the book is all wonky, then it's not a good read and it's not a joyful experience. So using that book process as a metaphor, our lives, we're designed to fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, and eventually discover in that getting up process.
I love that. And I see a really connected thread to branding as well. Because in business building as well, because you edit your business, you edit the process, you try something, there's that book,
right?
Fast. You try something, you learn, it works, it doesn't work, you get up and try the next thing, and you edit yourself and your brand and your business as you evolve until it becomes tighter and tighter and tighter. Like I didn't start out, I didn't start out as Star Maker, right? But by sort of editing different things out and really listening and trying things, and I'm sure it's going to evolve even more, that it becomes stronger and more refined and more powerful, and it makes you feel on purpose, and that brings you more
exactly.
joy.
And I think the other piece of it too is to recognize that joy is in the middle of the logical process. It's not the end point. Actually, the end point is leadership. So when you look at joy, it's not done. Just because you get it perfect, it's still not done. There's still this process of transmission and sharing and aligning, and it's an ongoing evolution, and there's a real joy in embracing that awareness, because I think we tend to think that there's a done, and there's no done.
Well, we wish there was a done.
Evolving. So,
right,
yeah.
right. So I want to take just a small detour for a minute, because if you don't mind, because I read your bio and you've had such an interesting life, and you've certainly
we didn't all into the bio. The bio was too small.
Yeah. But I know you, and I've read a lot about you. So your life has had lots of twists and turns, and especially in light of what's happening in the world right now, and all of the things that are going on in Europe right now. And I think you have a really unique perspective on that because of your history, right? I mean, I read in your bio that you are, is it not an Army brat? What was it? A State Department
brat.
State Department brat, but not a brat. A lovely, lovely girl. And that you had to walk through refugee camps was it Palestine?
Actually, we lived in Beirut, and I went to the international school, and I had to walk through a Palestinian refugee camp to get to school every morning.
Yeah. So you have a really unique perspective on probably all the things that are happening in the world right now. So my question is, I know that you have a really big belief about the world and bringing peace into the world and the human design and all of those things. Like your stepdaughter was saying, what's going on? What's going on in the world? What's going on in the world? So what is your feeling about what's going on in the world and how we can heal it?
Okay, so let's start first with the good news. It's all good news.
Okay.
I think we're in the middle of, I have 5 kids, and without getting too graphic, when you give birth, the final stage of birth is called transition, and it's the hardest stage of labor, right? And I think it's a really good metaphor for kind of where we're at on a global level. We're in transition. We're about to give birth to something completely different. But in that process of finishing up this birthing process, we have to go through this last sort of thrust where we're getting rid of things that aren't working. The things that are really loud and uncomfortable in our collective consciousness are coming up for us to be conscious of and be aware of, so that we can deliberately really start creating in a different direction. So even though it feels uncomfortable and kind of scary, I actually think everything that's going on, including the global warming piece, is actually a really good sign that we're at the end of this birthing process. What I know, and actually this is in the more weirder aspects of human design, in human design it's actually taught that we're in the process of changing the way in which we're energetically hardwired. Human 2.0 is coming. I love
that. I want to be a human 2.0.
And you will be. If you can make it till 2027, we'll be good. But what we see as we're shifting the hardwiring of what it means to be human is we're actually moving towards a more evolved expression of humanity that is rooted in, first of all, the concept of abundance. So we're actually moving towards building a new world where we are all abundant. We're moving towards a world where where the abundance is sustainable. We're moving towards a world where the peace is sustainable, where people accept and allow each other for who they are. And there's a lot more of a values-based economy. There's just the whole energy is sort of shifting, where I think the New Age community has been wanting to shift it for a lot of years. It's actually really coming. I think that there's a lot of us sensing this shift in consciousness that we're in the midst of sort of embracing. And for me personally, when I look at like the response to the violence in France this weekend on Facebook, and I happen to have obviously I attract just amazing people, and I'm so grateful because my Facebook feed has not had any racism or hatred on it. It's just been nothing except beautiful statements about prayer and let's open our doors to Syrians. And I mean, to me, it's been a really loud testament to, I think, some really big shifts in collective consciousness that are moving us more and more closely towards an awareness and laying down the energetic template for the possibility of creating a world of peace. So that's really my perspective. I think that all of this extremism is just symptoms of the dying gasp of a change. I think the more we really look at extremism, and the more we are all, I think, going to come together and say, that's not what we want. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find people who really want that on the planet. And I think we have to just go, okay, this is an aspect of our consciousness that's expressing. We don't want this anymore. We have to continue to focus towards peace and abundance and stay rooted in spirit and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you. You know, I was watching my daughter, one of my daughters is 12, and we were watching, someone had suggested the movie Billy Elliot. I don't know if you saw that, it was a little while ago, and I hadn't seen it for years and years and years. And I forgot that there's this whole part of the movie that has to do with transgender. And I had completely forgotten that. And, you know, even 5 years ago, that topic would have been a completely different conversation. And she was like, and I said, well, you know, what do you think of this character? And she's like, oh, well, you know, he wants to be whatever. He wants to be a girl. And I was like, okay. It was like, and it was not so it is like inclusion. We are one. All those things are starting to shift. So I just hope that, well, I'll ask you, what do you think that individually, not as a world conscious, but individually, what we can do with our human design to forward that light energy and you know, dissipate some of the dark energy?
And I thank you for that question, because that's really the root of everything that I do and everything that I've done my whole life. You know, I always tell the story because it's a good way of illustrating it. You know, as I said, I have 5 kids. I also have a big, really stupid dog. You know, in our house,
I'm glad you said dog. I thought you were going to say something else.
So he's a forerunner of the next world. He's totally joy, to a ridiculous extent. But if you do a puzzle in our house, you know, puzzles have about a 30-minute lifespan in our house before, you know, somebody, either the dog eats a piece or the cats whack a piece under the radiator, or some kid gets frustrated and rips off one of the corners and tries to jam it into the wrong space, you know. And the thing about a puzzle is, if you've got pieces that are either in the wrong place or missing, it's going to affect the total beauty of the puzzle. You know, the puzzle is only as beautiful as the sum total of all the pieces. We are, each and every one of us, uniquely designed. There are 7 billion plus amazing puzzle pieces on this planet. And when we are being the fullest expression of who we are designed to be, when we're fulfilling our piece in the puzzle to the fullest extent possible, we are adding to the beauty of abundance and you know, just abundance on the planet. When you're doing your part in the puzzle, you're adding to the beauty of who we are. So people, I think, want to, you know, they want to do things like, oh, should I go feed the poor? Should I get, you know, should I go volunteer? And I say, yeah, totally, do that. Absolutely. We have to do the physical hard work of changing the world and making it a better place. We can't pretend like we can sit on our meditation pillows and it's going to just happen. It's not. We have to do it. That's why we're here in the third dimension. But before you do anything, even before you help people, make sure that you're getting right inside yourself about who you are and what you're here to do. If you're compromising in any way, if you're out of alignment with who you are here to be, you're going to be taking away from that puzzle and not adding to it. So do your homework first, take care of yourself first, be the fullest expression of who you are, and then go do the work that needs to be done to make the world a better place.
I love that, because you have to feed your soul before you can feed someone else's soul.
It's not even just about feeding your soul, because I think people freak out about that piece too, because we know this stuff about being selfish and it's more about being yourself. Be yourself first, and be, you know, embrace who you are, love yourself, see the beauty of the uniqueness of who you are, you know, really savor the piece that you play in the puzzle, and don't compromise it, and then go do what you need to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I often think about that when I think about, you know, not to stick too much on the subject, but when I think about terrorists, I think if they had that sense of self, that sense of purpose.
Well, and I think probably sense of purpose is there, but different. But I would say, you know, when I look at what causes people to go off the program, because the program I told you, we're designed to be loving. We're designed to love each other. When we go off the program, I find that it's usually in response to feeling lack of self-love, or feeling disempowered, or not being connected to the infinite abundance, or being conscious of it. Those pieces, and then this is where I think we have a global issue that we really have to look at more closely. You know, I think the real question is not how do we defeat terrorism, as much as what do we need to do collectively to create an environment where we grow people who love themselves, who feel empowered, who know what their contribution is and have the freedom to express that, who have an equal voice and control over their own destiny, who have access to all the resources that they need. I think we can globally attack those issues at the root. We might not see an end to terrorism right away, but I think over the course of generations, we're going to see some big changes.
Yeah, I'm clapping for you.
Oh.
No, right on, sister. I think that is totally right on.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces to knowing that, what that is, how to self-love, what is through the human design.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a really powerful tool for that, and for loving other people too.
Yes. So if someone wanted to get their unique code, their unique human design code, and have you read their chart and know more about what it is that they need to do, how would they get in touch with you? How would they get that done?
If you go to my website, understandinghumandesign.com, on the home page, you have a nice opportunity to give us your information. We'll generate a free chart for you. We'll send you a little report with it. And then you can go deeper into the site and look at the opportunities that we have there for people to do readings. We have a whole bunch of people that we train, amazing people all over the world who we've trained, who are available to do readings, courses and programs that you can take and study on your own. There's all kinds of resources there for you to dive into so that you can really discover the beauty of who you are and really take your piece in the divine puzzle. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's not just it's for business, relationships,
money, parenting, you name it, we got it. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're going to finish up in just a second. I have two last questions. So I think that you are a total star. Total star. I mean, you're clearly one of the world leaders in what you do. And from that perspective, what do you think of when you imagine someone as a star? What makes somebody a star?
For me, I say someone is a star when they are fully aligned with who they are, when they're on track with their purpose, when they love who they are, when they show up without compromise as the person they were created to be.
Wow. Well, then you fit the bill, sister.
Thank you.
So one last question then. As you're sitting here, we're talking to each other now in this moment, what are you most grateful for?
My children and my husband and my dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for you being here and for sharing your wisdom with us and for all of the work that you do to help really shift the consciousness of the whole entire planet and to help bring more of love and light from all of the participants in this world into consciousness so that there is more joy and there is more peace and there is more wealth and abundance for everybody. So thank you so much for your gifts and for sharing, not just here today, but with everybody all the time. Thank you so much for being here, Karen.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you for having me. What a great place to be able to share my message. I appreciate it so much.
You're more than welcome. And thank you all for being here as well. As my gift to you for staying with me, as always, on all of my shows, you can go to clearvoicebranding/close-any-room to get my free webinar on how to speak and sell from the stage. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Thrive. I loved having you here. I love having you as part of my community. And if you're enjoying the show, I would love it if you share it with your friends on Twitter, on Facebook, or wherever they're hanging out. I also want to let you know you can leave me feedback or comments. I love hearing from you. Just post those at heatherpoduska.com. You can also leave suggestions for topics that you'd like to know more about, or if there's someone you'd really like to see on the show, let me know that as well. Okay, until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care. Bye-bye.